besides being the most consistent Facebook happy birthday wisher,
Uh, uh
I think in the universe.
Maybe.
Uh,
On my birthday, I get so many, man, so I have to do it.
well, that's
I,
just it, right?
I didn't mean to cut off your introduction, but just I
That's
had to.
fine.
Like,
That's fine. I think that's the introduction. TJ Wilson, aka Tyson Kid, aka the Stampede Kid, aka Tej, to those that might have
uh,
watched some reality TV. I'm never going to call you Tej, man. I don't think I can get away with that. But how are you?
good, man. How you doing?
Great. I can't believe we haven't talked. We were just saying before we started here, like we haven't actually talked like this in probably over a decade at this point now. When's the last time you were even? Do you remember when your last like PWA or Stampede show was?
Yeah, it was in the last Stampede show is in the very beginning of '07. The
Right.
very beginning. And PWA is probably the end of '06 or beginning of '07, probably.
Yeah, because '06 is when you got the developmental deal, right? And
Yeah, and then I was waiting on my work visa, and then like I didn't want to. I mean, we kind of did like a farewell in Stampede, and then I did one more show, mate, as a surprise, as like Juggernaut's partner or something. But because I was waiting on a work visa, so I didn't want to like take a booking, and then I get my work visa, like say take a booking for March, but I get my visa in February, and now I'm like telling WWE like, well, I know you've been waiting, like I've been waiting on this for a few months, but you wait a little bit more. So, and I probably could have, but like I didn't want to push the limits just yet. I'd divide some time before I started becoming myself.
look, Stampede wants to run one show in Benalto, Alberta. I said I would be there. Can we just?
I needed to get to Acme, Alberta, so I couldn't. I can't do my obligations in McDonough, Georgia. I'm sorry.
I'd like to be on Raw tonight, but I really got to be in Acme.
Hey, man. Sometimes you can't forget where you came from. So I gotta go to Clare's home, Alberta, and put in the work.
That's it. That's it. Alberta is just loving getting all these small town shout outs right now. To everyone else in the world watching or listening, trust
They
me,
have no clue.
these are real places.
A funny Alberta one is Balzac, Alberta. I've literally wrestled there.
Yeah.
I wrestled a lot of. I mean, I'm sure you've obviously been to a million too. I've been to a lot of Alberta towns,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Yeah, well, and then I spent, a decade in Saskatchewan and I was working with some indie feds out there and you want to talk about small towns. I mean, yeah, it makes Balzac look like a metropolitan.
High level, Grand Prairie, like that. That's what's getting way, way, way north from the province.
It's funny because now working with Brett and Dallas and Steve and everybody else with Dungeon Wrestling, a lot of your wrestling lineage with the reintroduction of well, then it was called the British Commonwealth mid heavyweight title.
Yeah,
It's actually on the plates says world mid heavyweight title. So I don't know if we're going to go with world or British Common. I think we should go with world personally.
yeah, yeah. At this stage of the game, it's much bigger.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can't go for universe, but we can go for world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But getting there, getting the universe status.
Exactly. But when you hear things going on back in Calgary with this, and it makes you think back to your lineage. I mean, we'll get to what you're doing now a little bit. I told you beforehand. Anybody that's listening for like give me all the dirt on backstage in WWE. That's not what we're doing. We're catching up here after like so long here, but it is fun to kind of look back in those days of working the indies and now I know
Yeah,
a lot of people that you've trained or a lot of people that you've guided and influenced are also working around what's going on in Dungeon, also what's going on across Canada. I mean, there's tons of stuff going on across Canada, across North America. When you hear things that you were a part of growing up in your career coming back, does that give you nostalgia? Does it make you feel like an old man? Like, what do you kind of feel when you hear this stuff?
bit of both. But the thing is, like, I like getting older. It's. I know it sounds kind of silly, but it's a bit of a badge of honor. I mean, there's a time in our business where getting older wasn't really a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my generation, we've done a lot of work to change that. And man, I'm proud. I'm going to be 43 this summer, and I'm very proud of that.
Could you maybe tell your face and body that you're going to be 43? Because I'm 44, and like I look in the mirror. I don't look like TJ Wilson.
Don't tell my body that we're 43 yet. I'm still thinking we're in the 20s, and it'll all be good.
Well, I love it. You actually were just having a workout before this interview, and that's one question I know that fans, I do have to throw at you because you post a lot of your workout stuff still. In fact, for a while there, you were posting a lot of stuff that had people going, comeback?
Yeah. It's funny. Like, here's what I think people don't quite understand, and it's not their job to understand.
Yeah.
But like, I wrestled for like so close to like almost exactly 20 years, very close. June 2015 is my last match, June 1st, and my first match ever is July 23rd. Sorry, 1995. So I mean, I was 6 weeks shy of that 20-year career with only one injury prior, my knee. And so, man, I get why you'd see these things and think it means I'm coming back. But the truth is, like, when you have something like that for such a long period of time, for me, I had a lot of, wrestling was always a physical outlet. Mm-hmm. And when that is gone, I worked out every day when I was a wrestler too. Mm-hmm. So like, you need to replace, I feel like for me, I needed to replace that physical outlet. And so I needed to kind of, I guess, up my time in the gym a little bit, or up my intensity in the gym a little bit, as to give me help provide a little bit of that, like I keep saying, that physical outlet. It just was like, otherwise I'll just be going crazy. Like when I first got hurt with my neck, like I was going crazy because I couldn't do a whole lot. I just had to rest.
Yeah, whether it's endorphins or whatever it is, you get that feeling of, I have it with running, where, you go out for a run after a while and you haven't done it, and it's like you're almost wondering, like, is it still going to feel the same? Am I going to be all right afterwards? And so I get that. And for those that aren't maybe that active, that's okay. There's other things you can
exactly do. Like we all have our little outlets of what we do. For me, mine is like a physical one, and so that's why I really kind of put extra emphasis on working out. And I already worked out all the time before that. It just now it takes up that much more of like the pie of the percentage, because I can't wrestle. Once in a while, I will demo some stuff in my ring, but mostly just like some technical stuff.
Well, I was going to ask that because we have seen footage of you rolling around with people. I mean, rolling around with Natty. I think there was some footage of you. Well, there's been talk of you working with a few people that have been either working on comebacks or just getting back in ring shape and that sort of thing. And
yeah.
But I mean, is it safe to say like we've put a cap on the wrestling part for good?
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. I answer this all the time, and then people don't believe it, and I understand why. We've seen so many other people say that they're retired or whatever, and they come back, and that's great. That's cool. It's not in the cards for me. I have a different injury than most people when it comes. And like, I know I say this a bunch too. Like, it sounds so weird, but in the wrestling neck fusion community, mine is the highest of everybody's, as in it's my C1 and my C2 are fused. I think Steve Austin is maybe C3 and 4. And then everybody else's, for the most part, is like C5, 6. So it's much lower. Mine's at the very top. The first 2 discs in your neck.
Hey, buddy, you always did try and excel at everything you did. So, I mean.
Yeah, I tried to take it to a whole different level.
I don't want to get too insy here. There was a report of a current superstar. Well, he's actually said it, so I can say it. But Braun Strowman has come out on social media saying that.
Oh, I just saw that. I literally just saw that yesterday.
I was wondering if he's called you, or if anybody, like, do you get calls from people that get these fusion things? Like, what do I do? Or is that maybe more of someone else's call because yours was so different?
I mean, it definitely is. Like when you enter that very exclusive club, it's like we all kind of come together. Like, I was already had a relationship with him, but when I got hurt, I'm like, one of the first people to reach out was Edge, and we had a very great talk. And another guy, and he's become, I would consider him a friend is Steve Austin. I know I'm sitting here name dropping or whatever, but these are people that have reached out when I hurt my neck. So when people when people either hurt their neck or it's kind of close. I mean, the truth is, any injury I have a lot of empathy towards.
Yeah.
But if it's neck, then it is becomes much closer to home, and I definitely reach out. So the second I'm done this, I'm actually going to text Braun and just see what he's doing, because I just saw that yesterday. I was doing a seminar, so I just didn't reach out. But I'm glad you reminded me, and I'm going to reach out to him right after this.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, man. You know, tell him random guy in Canada wishes him well too. But
yeah.
But you know, it's one of those things where, and I don't want to get too deep on this because it's not our place to talk about it that much. But I'm curious your opinion now. When you look at what happened with your injury, you're in the biggest company in the world, some of the best to do it, safety everywhere, I'm sure, and you know what it's like on the indies. You know what it's like out there. I mean, how important in your mind is it when they're not at the level where they're at a training facility like the Performance Center, or they're not getting a developmental deal with like another company? What risk should an independent wrestler be willing to take to get noticed? And do you have an opinion on it? You don't have to have one either. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
because
I mean, I guess I kind of do, and I do. Here's the thing: I totally understand why you would, as a talent, as a performer, I totally understand on any level why you would try to do whatever it takes to get noticed and to stand out. And so it's hard to kind of put a cap on and say like, well, that shooting star press is good. The 630s pushing, like, for example, like Jack Evans, he could almost at one point, this guy is doing like, he could almost do a 630 in his sleep. So who am I to tell him like, hey, dude, you shouldn't be doing that? Because if I hadn't been signed when I had been signed, I would have kept trying to get noticed too. And I don't know what that would have entailed, but I understand the chase and kind of leaving no stones unturned, I guess. So I get that side of things. The other side of things is like these crazy moves, they're awesome. And they'll go viral or whatever, and they might get the right eyeballs on you, but they don't make a match. They're not what I mean is they're not the only part of a match that matters. Is like I remember Jericho, maybe in his book, he was saying something like that. He felt like if he couldn't do a shooting star press, he couldn't make it at one point,
right,
when he went the cool, crazy new move. And I understand that mindset for sure. And when we're younger, we all kind of have that mindset, but you realize, oh, it's not about that. That's a good addition, no doubt. It absolutely is a great addition if you can do these things. But if you can't, or you feel like it might, like if you can, but you feel like you can't do it correctly every time, and maybe you're putting yourself or your opponent at risk, maybe it's not worth doing, because the truth is it's not make or break. Doing a 630 or doing like a double move, like I'm just thinking of Ricochet's moves, everything Ricochet does. But like he's so talented. But like, and Ricochet's awesome. But the truth is, like, I think Ricochet could get by even if he didn't do those things. I think
Ricochet, I mean, we can go back to that match too, the one that happened in Japan, right? That was the one that, I mean, the whole world watched over and over again, and that was so over the top and so video game. Mm-hmm. That's what it became known for, was that match. But I think you're right, and it might sound like the old man wrestling fan here, but less is more is the old adage. I'm glad you brought up Ricochet, because I love watching that guy, and yeah, I mean, to me now, when he breaks out something crazy, like the thing with Logan Paul with the coast to coast double clothesline thing, I mean, that was redonkulous.
That was insane, man. That was so awesome.
But that's what I mean. You don't see that every week in WWE. You don't see it on TV all the time. So it makes it special and makes it matter more. And the fans reacted like that too. So I can see that too. I was just curious because we do have wrestlers of all different levels listening to the show.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, growing up, I mean, I've been following indie wrestling as long as I've been following the mains, it seems. But you know, there's going to be people listening to this interview specifically going, "Hey, that's TJ Wilson. He works for WWE. You know, what do I got to do to get noticed?" And I'm glad to hear you say that, man. So
And
I mean,
honestly, like, and I know this is gonna, I'd rather see if I had to pick, I'd rather see like intensity and like crisp wrestling versus crazy stuff. That's maybe not done a 10 out of 10. Now, if you can do that stuff 10 out of 10, then you have my attention for sure. But it's not, again, it's not the be all end all to me. And it's not the be all end all in my world where I work. It's not. Again, it's a great additive for sure, but it's not super necessary.
I'm sorry, I'm just reading a couple questions here. Buddy,
no, it's no problem.
Big fan of yours here. He was too shy to come on. I was going to invite him on, but we've talked about how you're feeling. We've talked about things in the ring. I don't know. Can we even go here? I mean, you've got friends that are working somewhere else right now. There one in particular you held a tag team championship with. You know, how do you feel about what's going on with them?
I'm always so proud of Claudio. He's the best, man. So like June 1st this is a funny story to me. June 1st is the day I got hurt. So the other Thursday was June 1st, and I was flying. Well, I booked my travel wrong. I was flying to Hartford. I needed to go to Pennsylvania. So when I landed, I had a 3.5 hour drive that I did to myself. It's totally my fault. It's a different story. But anyway, earlier in the day, I got a text from Claudio, and he just said, "Hey, man, I hope you're well, blah, blah, blah." Like, it was kind of short, and I was like, okay. I didn't text him right away. I was getting ready to hit the road, and I was like, I wonder, I don't know why it didn't. And then when I was on the plane, I realized, oh, it's June 1st today.
Wow.
He knew before me. He figured it out. Like, he is great at that. And like that day when I got hurt, and that following day, and then when I had the surgery a few weeks later, like, he's there. He's there for all this stuff. He is one of the most genuine human beings you'll ever meet. He's a great, great person, and I wish nothing but the most success for him. And I'm so happy for him, and I know he's happy, and then I'm just happy for him. I'll be a big fan of him forever.
A big thing about, you got a friend here, a friend there, and that sort of thing. It's just, it was obvious, even just watching on TV, especially when you were hurt. He was wearing the armband with your name on it, and integrating, letting you know that you still mattered to him and wanted to keep you in the mind of the fans.
Gives me goosebumps right now. And he incorporated the sharpshooter into his moveset. That meant a lot. He's like I said, he's the man, dude. He's the man.
Well, that's great, man. And that's.
And I have a lot of friends all over the place, but I have a lot of friends over in AEW everywhere. I have friends everywhere.
Well, maybe when things settle down, I'll ask you about your buddy Phil sometime. But in the meantime, we'll move forward. I do want to talk just a little bit about what you're doing now, and not from a behind the scenes-y point at all. I don't really care about that. I don't want to know who's great and who's not and all this sort of thing. But I am curious. Like, I don't remember being a fan growing up going, gee, I wonder who the agent was of my favorite match I saw that night. And now it's a thing.
Where did this come from? It's so strange.
Well, that's just it now. And there's like producer lists showing up online for who produced what match. And I mean,
believe me, I get like tweeted and tagged and stuff. And like, sometimes it's positive and sometimes it's really negative. And the funny thing is like sometimes the positive and most of the negative.
Yeah.
It's like what they're saying to me or about me. The funny thing is what they're complaining about or what they're even praising is not in my job description. I actually like some things that they complain about has nothing to do with me. They can see my name as the producer. That doesn't always mean much in sense of like I got tagged in something about Asuka, like they didn't trust me to produce an Asuka match because she loses title matches I produce or something. And I was like, whatever. Yeah. You can keep thinking what you think you know. And that's just the fun part of the world of wrestling is unless you're, and I know it's going to sound much worse than I mean it to be, is like, unless you're really in it, you don't really know. You might know, you might even know quite a bit, but you don't fully understand for the most part, unless like you're there, or you really take a moment to understand what's really happening. And when you just assume things, you already know that saying.
The worst possible thing is a little bit of information in a mind that can't handle it. Like if you're gonna assume all these things and build off that. And you know what? It's funny, even doing this, like, I talk to fans, I talk to Dave Meltzer every week, and we don't do a ton of speculation, which I appreciate, because I know that that's a route that's very popular in wrestling news. And
I get it. It's, I'm a big NBA fan, so I definitely like, always when it gets to this time of the season, once it's the final four teams or we're in the finals, I start like fantasy booking the next season, like some of these like trades and free agency, and the draft coming up with Victor Wembanyama. Like, I start fantasizing these things, so I understand why a fan does it. I totally understand. The difference is I'm not. Whatever, but
you're not claiming to be an expert in NBA basketball. You're not going online and saying this is the news.
I'm not tweeting Kyrie Irving and saying what I think he should be doing or not doing.
Yeah.
And trying to say it from a place where I know what he's going through. I don't know what he's going through. He has his own life.
Yeah.
So it's just funny, but I get it, and I appreciate what I do appreciate, even if it's 100% wrong, and even if it is negative. I will say this: I appreciate the passion.
And that's the thing. I mean,
it just may not be directed in the right direction, but I appreciate it.
You're being very diplomatic now. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes down to wrestling fans, I mean, it is the passion. It's the passion that makes people go crazy for this stuff, because I liken it to walking into a magic show. We know we're being tricked, but at the same time, we want to buy in, we want to believe. And I think sometimes maybe we as fans tend to take the wanting to believe things the way they are outside of the arena, and that's maybe where we should stop the line. Let backstage take care of itself, and let us worry about.
And it's fine if you want to, like I said, if you want to think about it and like fantasy book and things like that. That is all fine. But then don't all of a sudden, like, the weird part to me is then when it gets twisted into like that person's reality, and then they post online to tag me in something that is like so far from the truth.
Well, you all heard it here first. Tag TJ Wilson. He hates
Hell
He does not like her. Does not like her winning matches.
Even though, if we're going to talk about producing stuff, like one of my favorite matches, a couple of my favorite matches I produced are from this year, but it's like I really was proud of the Rumble and the Women's Elimination Chamber. And by the way, Asuka won the Elimination Chamber for the record.
I love that. Take that, Twitter. Did you? Okay, and again, I don't want to know, but I'm just curious, like, because I was there. I was at Hell in a Cell in Chicago.
Okay, hell yeah.
That triple threat match. Did you have something to do with them?
Yes, sir. That was my match.
Dude, that was so much fun. And that was the funny thing, too, is that I think that was the first time I'd seen Asuka live. She never made it up on the Canadian stretches when I was going to house shows here.
Okay.
And so, I mean, what a match to see her in, but also just, I mean, what a sleeper pay-per-view. And I mean, the Cody moment.
Yeah, Cody with the torn pec. That was a hell of a pay-per-view.
Well, I will. We broke that story. But
and the Warriors won that day too. I remember clearly. I remember going back to the hotel and watching the rest of the game. They're in the finals against Boston.
That's amazing. Okay, so I think now we've kind of actually crossed off a lot of topics here that we could talk about. I mean, you've always been a good pal. You've never shied away from anything. For those indie wrestlers, for everybody that's wondering, like, WWE is this big machine now. Is it back in the day, like you just send your stuff and hope for the best? Like, do you know what even the recruiting side is? Do you touch that at all? Are you someone that can suggest people, or?
I can suggest people to like either Regal or like, but now Regal's mostly on the main roster. He's at TVs. I don't know if he has a real, like, an official role in NXT or not, but I'm sure. Regal's word carries a lot of weight. And Matt Bloom, I can reach out to, so I can reach out to people, but I don't. But the truth is, I don't know the full process.
Yeah, and that's fair. I'm trying to knock off stuff that anybody watching or listening.
That's a great. Again, I did a seminar yesterday, and I was asked the same question, and I gave the same answer. It's what I have at the moment at my disposal. I guess is I can speak to Regal in person, and I can reach out to Matt Bloom.
The biggest question overall is, with what you're doing these days and how it harkens back to your career in the beginning. You've always been a guy who was quick to pick up, I think. I think wrestling probably seems to have come pretty natural to you over the decades, but is there anything that you specifically take from your time as a wrestler and it's kind of a constant now with the wrestlers and the superstars that you deal with today, something that maybe would be something that, they say there's always a common thread, or some things, the more the things change, the more they stay the same. Is there any constants that you notice from back when you were grinding and trying to get noticed to today's wrestlers or today's superstars?
I mean, definitely, like the chase is, to me, there might be little small variant differences, little variants or whatever, but the chase is always going to kind of be the same. It's always about, like, this case. So when I started in Calgary, it's like I wanted to be the best guy in the dungeon, and I wanted to be the best guy on the Stampede wrestling shows. And it took a month. I mean, I don't even know if I was, but I worked really hard to try to be that. And I definitely wasn't anywhere near that in the beginning. And you go, oh my, how do I get this done? Where do you start? Feels like this big, like, giant task, and you don't even know where to begin. But the truth is, once you start, it's like cleaning the messiest room in the world. Once you start, you will start seeing a little bit of progress, and then you might plateau a little bit, and you got to try to figure out. That's the hard part, is those plateaus and how to make that next jump. And so, like, I still see the same drive. I still see the same passion. I still see the same hunger that I had. I see it at my ring all the time. I see it in the seminar I did yesterday. I see it in the talent in WWE that wrestle on TV every week. They still have, even if they've been on TV for a few years, they still have something to prove. Like, there's a reason that Undertaker kept having matches. He's still proven. Like, I don't know, something about,
what I took from
wired a different way
from when they were doing that whole Last Ride series with him. I saw in him the indie wrestler that still wants to get that big payoff. You know what I mean? Like, he wants to have that big finale. And when he didn't get it, I see that. So I understand 100% what you're saying. We are running out of time on this chat, man, but I hope you'll come back sometime. This has been way too long before this happened. So
yeah, no problem. I'll be glad to be back. This was so easy and smooth. Hell yeah. It's a good conversation.
I appreciate it, buddy. I love talking about wrestling. That's what this show is all about. And I mean,
hell yeah, me too. I love wrestling.
I mean, next time if Natty's around, I still owe her an apology for an interview I did back when I was in Nate, and she had just lost, or she won a match against Belle Lovitz, I think. And I had said something about, what's it going to take for you to get the victory? And she's like, well, I won the match, but she'd gotten beaten down. And I'm totally kidding about this. But at the same time, it's like I want to go back and just I need to right some wrongs, man. That's what needs to happen here. This is the redemption tour.
Yeah.
But hey, man, all the best. We got to talk some more. But I really appreciate it.
Honestly, anytime, Mike, no problem.
And if people want to book you for seminars or things like that, how do they do that?
You can reach out to me mostly on Instagram at TJ Wilson 711. I couldn't get TJ Wilson, so 711 is my birthday. So I just went with, that's why the number, if anyone's curious.
There goes the rumor of you being a massive Slurpee enthusiast. So.
Well, I get free ones on my birthday, but the funny thing is, this will be my 43rd year on this earth. I've never once done that, but people will tell me about it all the time.
I can't believe that. I look at pictures of you. I think that's a guy that drinks sugary drinks all the time.
What's funny is, as a kid, man, I drank Slurpees like daily. I love Slurpees. But they're so different in Canada compared to here in America. Very different.
Man, well, hey, dude.
They're not as good here. I'm sorry, guys. They're not as good here. The ones here are like the kind they kind of had in my high school. My high school had like a Slurpee machine in the cafeteria, and it was like really airy.
Oh, that's the worst when you just like no syrup and
like the calorie like in back home it's different. It's like it's heavy. Slurpee's heavy. Here they're very light.
Hey, I'm going to ask you this real quick. We literally have like a couple minutes left. Are we going to see it at a dungeon show?
Maybe one day. Yeah, hell yeah. I've seen clips, and like I saw Brett when I was just up there, and I saw Mo, Kid Chocolate.
Yeah,
I know Dallas. Obviously, I know Dallas, but I'm saying like Dallas doing a hell of a job. Steve, everyone's doing a great job.
It's the best job I've ever had in my life, man. This is the dream come true.
Hell yeah.
Until anybody you work with gives me a call, this has been the dream. So it's been awesome. But
yeah, dude, it looks like everyone's having a great time, and that's very contagious, and that is something that I look for. Like in my job, I have fun most of the time. There's very, very few days that are not great days at work, and that happens. That's every job has bad days. Mine has very few. I have very few bad days. I genuinely love what I do. It's the travel that gets to me a little bit.
I love it, man. I absolutely love this, dude. All the best to Natty, best to everybody down there.
Yeah, Mike.
And let's keep in touch, okay?
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's do this again, honestly.